Hello, Bryce. How's 2020 been so far?
So obviously 2020 has been an incredible challenge. Whether it is COVID, whether it's things like the fires, the power outages that we've had in the region at headquarters, um, it's been quite stressful, as for many people. Obviously, we had to have a lot of staff go home for quite some time. So folks are having to work remotely. Um, for those with younger children and so on, it's been quite a challenge. But we have been very blessed within the company not to have had anyone get infected. On the personal side, some members of my extended family have run into it, but that's in other locations around the globe. Um, but in terms of reacting to these things and the way one handles these types of events, I'm very proud that AJA was very proactive with all of this. We were the first to announce all the way back in March that we were going to step away from NEB. We knew that we had to move aggressively to ensure that we could keep going, that we could support our various markets. Um, and that involved all sorts of things, making sure that we dealt with suppliers to ensure that there would be the capabilities to continue moving forward, because supply chains have been disrupted around the globe. And there's obviously, as a vendor, that can be highly complex, and we still face challenges. Um, but despite all that, the key thing was to keep going. It was to look at what can we do to help our end users make the most of it.
It's being said we've seen 3 years of progress in tech like video conferencing in 3 months. Has lockdown helped the AV business?
So when it comes to AV and IT and just technological developments, we've all had roadmaps, I think, that have been looking to the future, realizing that IP matters a lot, that utilizing the growing bandwidth around the world is obviously favorable for video transmission and reception. And what it's really done is not so much forced us to go way off roadmaps. It's definitely encouraged us to step it up. And I think that's what's happened with a lot of companies. There's also a lot of cross-company partnerships going on. And for instance, we've worked with companies like Colorfront, where they're using their transcoding software, and then through Amazon AWS type services and SRT are able to utilize our pieces of kit to help people monitor input, etc. So I think the collaborative nature of things has opened up a lot. I think companies like Frame.io that have created platforms to help move video around, etc. It's really an acceleration, and being agile as a vendor throughout all this is really key. Uh, and for us, as a smaller company, in the big scheme of things, we've been able to do that, I think, extremely successfully. Um, and yeah, it's about bridging all around.
5 years ago, this scenario would have brought business to a standstill. Thanks to our AV and IT infrastructures, we appear to be, in the most part, managing. Is AV still an exciting place to be?
Oh, I think the entire AV business, has been growing nonstop for a number of years. As you're aware, David, I've been intrigued by, and we've utilized and looked at a range of industries sort of merging, coming together in different ways. This time period, for instance, it has accelerated the usage of things like virtual sets. We started working with gaming engine technologies like Unreal a few years back, where we can blend that SDI or HDMI inputs, whatever it might be, where you've got the real life person, UI, what have you, against a green screen, and then using game engines, creating virtual sets. And there's a heck of a lot of that going on. So I think it's different right now. I've got a lot of friends that do live events, for instance, concerts and so on. And obviously for them, this particular time period is extremely challenging. But in the meantime, for what can be done, um, it's a remarkable mix of technologies across a range of industries that are coming together. And I think Pro AV integrators, creators have got a lot of tools to work with today, and it's exciting.
Have you ever seen anything quite like this? What about our friends and colleagues who have been laid off or are finding it really difficult?
Firstly, I just wanted to share that AJA has been very blessed in the sense of really good management, being agile, as I mentioned, and we haven't had to lay folks off. However, we all have colleagues around the industry that have been laid off. We have a lot of freelancers. Pro AV live events requires a lot of gig workers. Um, and it's an extremely difficult environment for them right now. Um, I think what this time period has allowed, though, is a little bit of entrepreneurship in the sense of whether it's your own self and choosing to educate yourself further while you've got this period where you cannot be out and about. I've got so many friends that have taken on various classes and so on, preparing for what's coming next. And then all these kinds of tools that we've been talking about that utilize the internet. I've seen a lot of new media entities arise where folks are effectively putting out their own knowledge, right? For those who have been extremely active in the field, this is a good time to share your knowledge, to learn from each other. I think there's a ton of education, and we have to look at the bright spots there. In terms of current incomes and so on, it's going to be a challenge, and it is a challenge for many people. And it may be a mix of income sources that one has to look at to get by in the meantime. Perhaps there's some social aid. But I think the important thing during these types of events, being South African and having lived through a lot over the years, you cannot let depression get you down. There's a lot of support. There's a need to communicate. Thank heavens we're at a stage in technological evolution where things like we're doing today with an interview over Zoom and so on is even possible. So it's important to stay in contact. It's important to communicate with others, share the pains, but also, look at what you can potentially build out of this.
So, Bryce, what next? Where do you see the market moving?
So I think what's exciting when we look at all the plus sides here, right, is part of what I've mentioned here before is the ability, the opportunity, the fact that we have something like the internet that allows us to reconsider how we create visual materials and how we present them. What we've already seen with the sports, for instance, that can continue, of course, without audiences, etc., is they're making those physical environments that you're watching a lot more engaging. And AV's been a very big part of that, right? Whether it's lights that has been utilized in creative ways, whether it's displays that are, being rearranged and reconsidered, whether it's all the metadata, so to speak, or all the additions that you add with an OTT experience on top of it. So the power of visual communication is still very much with us. And I think a lot of creative minds have been looking at this going, okay, we need to be able to reach out, we need to be able to communicate. It's a different format, but we're still able to bridge all these technologies that have been out there, those that are coming, and we're creating richer experiences out of it, which ultimately means when we're all able to get back out there again and so on, those live experiences will be even richer than have been in the past. So I think there are always upsides in a moment of crisis.
Thank you, Bryce.